Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or so I'm good about already. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. Honestly, there wasn't much this week, but some important stuff. For starters, we are going to be the only outlet in all of existence that is not going to touch the United Airlines controversy. And we're not going to touch it for a number of reasons. One, it has been talked to death over this last week. Two, it's a story that's still playing itself out. And most importantly, three, and this seems to be something that the rest of the tech industry is forgetting, it has nothing to do with tech. At all. Let the regular news outlets handle it. But nope. CNET, Gizmodo, they all have to talk about it. And how it's just terrible. Which it is, it's terrible. And it's more of an eye-opening thing to... That's actually the one thing about it that nobody is talking about. How it's a nice wide look at what actually is wrong with current airline policy. About how everyone overbooks. About how they can just forcibly eject you if they need to. There's a whole lot of things that's just wrong with it. And look, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and already I'm now talking about it. The point is that it has nothing to do with tech. I am going to talk about what is kind of interesting news. Windows Vista is now officially dead. For a while now, Vista was still considered a supported operating system. There were still updates being made for this titanic turd that kind of tried to force everyone into it. Into the way it ran things. Nowhere near as forceful as 10, mind you. No. 10 was so forceful that it straight up didn't give you a choice. But, Vista got its bad rap because it was incompatible with half the stuff that ran on XP. So every single major business were wondering, what do I do? My equipment doesn't work with it. And then on top of that, the 32-bit version was just god-awful. The 64-bit version ran well. And eventually a few tweaks. Windows 7 came out. Then 8 was hated. Then a few tweaks, 10 came out. It does kind of looking back on it, Windows has this tendency to go from big shocking adjustment that's hated to little tweaks to it that makes it likable again, to big radical shifts that makes it hated, to little tweaks that makes it liked again. Just probably why there's not going to be a Windows 11 anytime soon, or 12, or whatever. So, if you are for some reason still running Windows Vista, I first off applaud you for managing to still be using it. Congratulations. I didn't think you'd do it, but you did it. And second, it's time to switch computers. It's time. It's just time for something newer. If it's a top-tier workstation that, it's some 8-core rig running Windows 8, it's time to upgrade your OS. Get at least to 7 and be happy forever. So, That's a happy rest in peace. Here's a sad rest in peace. The NES Classic Edition has officially been discontinued. Last Christmas, this only 4 months ago. 5 months ago, actually. So it came out December. This thing was a cute little game console that had, 50 classic NES games on it? And it was all the rage and hotness during the Christmas season. And they were in very short supply. Well, Nintendo decided it doesn't even deserve to live for a year. I'm sorry, it's 30 games. It says it on the box. And also chat just corrected me. So yeah, it's 30 games, not 50. My bad. The point is that it's gone. What else is there to say? We could have had something much more interesting. If there's the ability to upgrade it, some support down the road, but Nintendo's now made it clear. It was a one-off project. It was never meant to go anywhere. This is the end of its road. The last shipment will be later this month, and then once it's gone, it's gone. And then it will be a massive collector's edition. I can talk, I swear. I'm a professional talker. It's what I do. It will then be a massive eBay collectible ready for everyone to throw north of, I don't know. What do you think it would go for? It sold for what, $60? I'm willing to bet it would probably sell online for $300. Now, maybe down the road, it'll come back. In fact, maybe they'll sell another edition, like Unjust Banana say. Maybe they'll sell it with different games. Maybe they'll sell one that has upgradability down the road, seeing it came out with such positive support for feeding everyone's nostalgia. I'm not 100% certain because there is an update on this article from Polygon that says that the Famicom Classic Edition, the Japanese version of the Mini NES, also ended production. I think it's more likely that this was planned. See, now it's all discontinued. Just being, okay, we got our cash in. We cashed out on nostalgia. It's time to have these production lines switch over to, no pun intended, the Switch. That's where I think this is going. All right, let's shift gears a bit. Samsung. Oh, Samsung. So they're coming out now with the Samsung Galaxy S8. Everyone's expected it. It's coming down the road. It's still coming out, don't worry. But one of the key features that the S8 has is called Bixby. Bixby is Samsung's Siri competitor. It's an assistant. It learns as you talk. It's supposed to understand the slang of the human language, so you don't have to phrase your sentences exactly and in a monotone for the assistant to be able to help you. Well, Bixby is not going to be on the S8 when it launches. Which now raises the question. What is going to be on the S8? I mean, what kind of an upgrade is the S8 over the S7? Now, I know what you're thinking immediately. Oh, but the S8 has that beautiful screen. The one that goes edge to edge. And it just seems to go on forever. Oh, it's so beautiful. You mean this one? The same one that's been on every single Galaxy S Edge phone for now 2 years? The same one that's on the S7 Edge? That's the baffling thing. The only difference between this screen and the others is the fact that the screen goes closer towards the bottom edge and the top edge. That's the only difference between this phone's screen and the screens of the past. Yet, for whatever reason, everyone, literally everyone, is absolutely just in love with this screen. It makes no sense when push comes to shove. The only place it loses more bezel, like I said, is at the top and the bottom. You lose these buttons down here, they now become virtual buttons. But everyone keeps talking about how the screen goes all the way to the edge. That's not new. Now, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. It's a good look. But everyone is talking like it's brand new. The biggest brand new features on this thing is, in fact, Bixby. Some of the software that Samsung has integrated to it, and it's not going to be available at launch. There's an entire button on the phone dedicated strictly to Bixby. I don't get why Samsung delayed this only to have core components be delayed until after the phone's launched. If you're already delaying the phone, why didn't you just delay it so it all comes out in the first go? What's the point of waiting? What's the point of just not... I phrased that wrong. What's the point of not waiting? What's the point of releasing it now, incomplete? Apple already did the same thing, releasing their entire product line incomplete. And they got all the flack in the world. Granted, the component that wasn't ready in time, I personally thought were stupid. That would be the AirPods that didn't come out until, 3 months after the phone they were designed for came out. Which that caused a massive outcry, even bigger than the one about the headphone jack, though Lord knows everyone complained about the headphone jack a lot more than the complaints about the lack of the headphone jack were more public, I should say, than the earpods. But if you put your ear to the tech community, all they talk about is, where's the earpods? Where's the earpods? Where's the earpods? It's going to be the same thing with Bixby. Where's Bixby? Where's Bixby? Where's Bixby? Where's Bixby? It's just... It's a terrible move on Samsung's part. But we'll see. Maybe they just wanted to get this out because they felt there was a void with the Note 7 just now no longer being even a viable option. The S8 should be out soon. The reviews will be out till then. At that point, we'll have all the answers of whether Samsung's in a hole or not. In the meantime, let's talk about robots. A few weeks ago, I talked about a different robot that did a very similar thing. It was called, I can't remember what it was called. Man, I am losing my mind. I can't remember what the other robot was called. Regardless, this one is run by Yelp Eat 24. And Marble is the one that's developed this robot. What it does is that any sort of food delivery, you can have this robot come and deliver your lunch. It's a nice little neat idea. Whereas the one I talked about a few weeks ago, which why can't I remember what it was? Dang it. That's going to bother me all day now. I had the name before I started broadcasting, and now it's just gone out of my head. It's off in the green yonder somewhere. Now this one's unique just because of the technology it uses. This one uses LiDAR. This is the same sort of depth sensing technology that a lot of the self-driving cars are using. Now, unless you live in San Francisco, you can't take advantage of this. And when push comes to shove, does it really matter? I'd rather let San Francisco be the guinea pig for whether a self-driving robot can go and deliver lunch properly than have it go and get run over by a truck out here in Milwaukee. Plus, I think out here it'd be more at risk of just being robbed. The first robot mugging, where the robot gets mugged. So, we'll keep an eye on this. See if we get a report about one of Yelp Eat 24's Marble robots getting hit by a bike. Just to see how far LiDAR has come. So, apparently Chad is telling me that me taking a quick gulp of water was picked up on the mic. I apologize for that. You never can tell when the mic's going to pick up something and when it doesn't. You hear a window crash in the room the next door. Turns out the mic didn't pick it up at all, and it sounded deafening to you. You take a gulp of water, you can barely hear it yourself, and the mic just picks it up like nobody's business. Granted, the mic's right at mouth level, which it should be, which probably helps it. That's off topic. Let's get back to the point. There are rumors coming out that Microsoft is making... I can't even say it with a straight face. This annoys me to no end. Microsoft is making a competitor for Chromebooks. You know Chromebooks, right? The laptops that just have a web browser, and if they're not connected to the internet, they're useless. And basically, their only purpose on Earth is to just connect to the internet and use a web browser. Yeah, they're popular in the schools, even though schools have had better options for years. But Google has been putting out less and less and less support for them as the demand for them has been getting less and less and less. Because when push comes to shove, even in a school, eventually you need to teach a real operating system. Even if that operating system is Android or iOS or Windows or Linux or macOS or whatever. And yeah, I get that Chrome OS is great for IT. Because you shut it down and any sort of damage that the students might have done to the software is instantly fixed. And you may think, oh, well, how do you even get close to that level of easy IT? Oh, I don't know, imaging? Technology that has been out for over 30 years? I mean, Chrome OS is out the door. It's already 1 foot in the grave. There's been more and more and more evidence that Google plans to have Android replace Chrome OS. Although what's more likely to happen is that, Project Purple is going to replace both Android and Chrome OS? I think that's the name of the theoretical, rumored Google super operating system that's being worked on. Something like that. So it's just baffling that Microsoft would go, ooh, you know what I want to do? Make an operating system as useless as Chrome OS. Come on! What are you thinking, Microsoft? Come on! If these rumors are true, that there is going to be a Windows 10 cloud, as it's called, a competitor to Chrome OS, I don't know what I'm going to do. If that actually is real. Because here's what's going to happen. I already know what's going to happen. The moment Windows 10 Cloud comes out, every single twit that can build a tablet is going to put Windows 10 Cloud on it. And then everyone will be able to get their hands on a Windows 10 Cloud tablet thinking, oh, it's going to be just like Windows 10. I can do all sorts of things. I can make this run Doom, only to find out you can't! That it's only going to run Edge. You know, the browser that nobody likes. Well, not nobody, but I mean, let's be honest. If you're listening to this right now and I told you had a choice between Firefox, Chrome, or Edge, your choice is either to Firefox, Chrome, or you're reaching for a bat to beat me for not saying Opera. Nobody is going to want an operating system that is just Microsoft Edge. And even more and more, fewer and fewer people like the concept of Chrome OS. I hope that these rumors are false. I really do. Because the last thing I ever want to see is to find out that every single cool little toy tablet that runs Windows 10, you might be able to figure out how to tweak it and get it to do all sorts of fun stuff, is replaced by Windows 10 Cloud tablets, which then instantly become useless. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Windows 10 Cloud turns out to be something completely different and ends up being the most ideal operating system for education. Maybe. Maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe this whole rant will be for nothing. In the end, only time will tell. Now, we're going to shift gears yet again over to PC building. One of the things I know quite a lot about. So Ryzen 5 is now out. This is the mid-tier of AMD's Ryzen parts. As the name implies, these are the ones that are meant to take on the Core i5. Ryzen 7s take on the Core i7s, and Ryzen 3s that will be coming out later on in the year will take on the Core i3s. Simple enough, right? So, here's the question I get the most. By now, pretty much everyone knows how Ryzen compares to the Intel parts. Ryzen is better at workstation applications and is worse at gaming compared to Intel. I mean, that's the super short version, but it's not completely accurate. Because whereas, I mean, here's the better way to look at it. Ryzen is 10% worse at gaming compared to Intel, but about 30% better at workstation applications than Intel. Now, of course, the question comes down to what's considered gaming and what's considered workstation applications. Now, sometimes it's obvious what's considered gaming and what's considered workstation applications. CAD is obviously gaming. CAD is obviously a workstation application. Wow. I think that's it. Let's just play Faraway Promise and just call it a night. I'm clearly gone. Anyway. CAD is obviously a workstation application. Ryzen would be better at it than a low tier, than a mainstream Core i7 or a Core i5. Whereas the Core i7 is going to be better at, say, running Nier Automata. Or name your PC game. The Intel is going to be better at it. But only by about 10%. And that's where this starts getting interesting. I want you to think hard for a minute. If you've ever ran a CPU meter and a GPU meter while playing a game, I do it all the time. I've always got my CPU, my GPU, and my network usage all right here in a nice gauge cluster. When was the last time your CPU was maxed out when running a game? Unless you're using an older processor, something that's more than 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, chances are the answer you just gave me is never. Or you're using a Celeron. Ryzen is worse at games, but at the same time, games don't require a whole lot of CPU usage. Now, when you talk streaming, this is where things get a little more interesting. I can actually attest to this just last week. This is something that personally happened when I was streaming Nier Automata off my PlayStation. OBS, the software that most streamers use to stream, is a workstation application. It requires a lot of CPU horsepower, and it will take advantage of every single thread you can throw at it. The rig I currently use is an older rig. It's a workstation from 2011. What happened was that the capture card kept crashing. And the reason it kept crashing was because parts of OBS were maxing out the CPU. And the primary reason for that was A, those particular components weren't very efficient. And B, my processor is older. So what happened was that the CPU would max out, and then the capture card would crash. So I had to eliminate that part of OBS, and it ran fine. And it still runs fine. Ryzen far excels at handling that kind of task, at the sort of workstation demands that a program like OBS or XSplit would have over Intel. This gives the AMD part a very weird but still distinct advantage as a processor for streamers. Because of the multiple threads. The 6 cores and 12 threads, or the 8 cores and 16 threads. OBS will sit there happy as a clam. And as long as you got the GPU that can handle both OBS, which takes a little bit of GPU, and whatever game you're using, which takes a lot of GPU, AMD finds itself in a weird little spot where the hand-built rigs running its processors has distinct advantage over the streamers using an Intel. It's kind of fascinating. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody figured that Ryzen would be that much better at running streaming software, and of course other workstation applications, CAD, video rendering, all that sort of wonderful stuff, than the Intel parts. Now, granted, we don't have any benchmarks of Ryzen compared to Xeon parts. These are the Intel server parts. And Intel specifically builds Xeons for workstation applications and for servers. So in that regard, there could be an advantage that Intel Xeons have over Ryzen. And who knows, maybe AMD has plans to release Opteron versions of Ryzen to compete with the Xeons. Opteron, if you don't know, that is the server workstation name that AMD had for their processors for an absurdly long time. I'd say about as long as Xeon was for Intel. So in any case, the Ryzen 7s start at the highest price of $499 and go down from there. The Ryzen 5s are much more affordable, ranging from $249 all the way down to $169. And of course, Ryzen 3 is still around the corner, and who knows how those are going to compare. Alright, we're nearing the end, everyone. Let's shift gears again. This is a story that was handed to me by one of my moderators for my Twitch channel. A.O. Shaw, specifically. YouTube accounts hacked by an online security group. This story is amusing just because of all that the hackers actually did. So, hundreds of YouTube channels have been hacked by a security group, Our Mine, which is claiming it as the biggest hack in YouTube history, quote unquote. Videos of compromised accounts display posts with titles that begin with #OurMine and feature the description as, "Hey, it's Our Mine. Don't worry, we are just testing your security. Please contact us for more information." Let's just stop right there. Here's the pop quiz for you. Is this hack a white hat hack, or a black hat hack? White hat hacks are hackers that go in to test security and then let companies know that you have a vulnerability here, 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 and here. It's what's known as penetration testing, trying to break into a network to try and make sure everything is secure. White hat hackers are necessary in the world of security. Black hat hackers are exactly what you think they are. They are hackers that hack for nefarious purposes. They hack for personal gain. Whether it be to steal data, that's usually why they do it. They do it usually to steal data and then sell data for a profit, or use that data for other malicious needs. So, this group goes in, and all they do is change the description on a bunch of YouTube videos and saying, hey, your security's borked. You should contact us about it. Sounds white hat, right? In the end, though, and maybe this is just my cynical nature, this comes off as black hat. Because here's how it's going to go down. And you're never going to know about this. I'm never going to know about this unless Google comes public with it. Because now, this is no longer going to involve the accounts that were hacked on YouTube. This is going to involve Google, or Alphabet, as it's actually called. How these sort of things go down. And I don't know if that's actually how this is going to go down, but history shows these go down in this fashion. The group does an innocent hack trying to expose security flaws. Victim of hack, in this case Alphabet, goes to the hackers and says, how you do it? And then they start rubbing their fingers together. They want to be paid for the exposure. Now, you might be thinking, but white hat hackers, you always get paid for their work. Not in this manner. White hats ask first. White hats are hired first. Or a challenge is put out to hack it. And that's the difference. If how I think this is going to go down is correct, our mine is going to use this exploit as a ransom. They're going to wield this exploit as a weapon. Now, I don't know this for a fact. Don't misunderstand me. But that's how these almost always go down. And more than likely, Google will pay out most likely some 5 or 6 digit number, probably a 6-digit number. I mean, it is a major exploit within YouTube. But I included this for a reason. They say they have no bad intentions, but of course they do. They went through and did a malicious attack. It could have been much worse. So much worse. That doesn't excuse the attack in the first place. Now, maybe some of these hackers will change their way, and then there'll be gray hat hackers. Time will tell. Time will tell. And finally, we're going to end up closing a little bit early on this podcast. No real surprise. Just because there wasn't a whole lot this week. But I want to talk about this little update. A while back, there was a game called Besiege. Besiege was a very fascinating little game of engineering where you went and build medieval war machines. And that was basically the whole game. You built various elaborate catapults and whatnot, and then let them loose to go destroy a small village. There was no real plot or anything to it. That's all it was. Well, there's a new update called Besieged Multiverse, which adds multiplayer and level editors to this already amazing sandbox game. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to get my hands on this. Bring in up to 7 players to join you on a level, and it allows you to design your own custom levels. I can't wait to see what sort of fresh, sort of elaborate machines the internet begins to come up with. Thank you all for sticking around with me. Again, I apologize that this wasn't able to be a really full episode, but what can you say? It's Easter week. Everyone went home. Nobody wants to make news. You can catch me live Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday at twitch.tv/eagle_falcon. Take care, everyone. I will see you next week.